Hopefully my voice won't sound too bad today and I won't sound too stuffy, but I am still a bit sick. But what I want to talk about today is Steel Rising's assist mode. Now I don't think people are talking about this easy mode enough, because as someone who loves challenging games, and I'm sure a lot of you do here, and thrives when I have to think about every move I have to make in order to not die and start over, I think the developers of this game actually did this right. Because if you look at most AAA games, the difficulty levels they give you are really arbitrary. You know, enemies hit harder, you take more damage or have less health, and enemies take less damage as well. And don't get me wrong, like, I love the usual suspects of this, like Assassin's Creed and even Spider-Man. But to me, enemies becoming bullet sponges and your character becoming a fragile piece of glass isn't what we should consider challenging in games. And the team at Spiders, who made Steel Rising, actually gave people an option of an easy mode that will definitely help them learn the ropes of Souls-like games without wasting their time. Because that's essentially what those difficulty levels in other games do. You know, they're a time waster. They make fights so freaking long and drawn out, and it's not satisfying, you know? It's like the anime adaptation of One Piece. You get 10 minutes of recap and nothing of substance really happens. And when someone feels like they're wasting their time on something, they don't want to continue playing it, right? But enough rambling, here's the options that you have in Steel Rising's assist mode. First, you can reduce the damage you take, which can still be managed if you don't use this, like with better armor and more points spent on the right attributes. But if you have a lot of health and don't dodge, parry, or block properly, or manage your stamina, or manage your health flask, you'll still ultimately die. Now the other option it gives you is that you can enable the option to keep the anima essence after you die, so these are the souls or the runes as it is. And although you can't say that this defeats the purpose of playing a Souls game, I think that it gives beginners and newcomers alike the opportunity to grind the areas, learn the game, learn the map without the fear of losing everything they've worked for. And for me, the thrill of those games is not knowing when the next checkpoint is going to be and where I'll be able to refill my healing items and level up. And you start thinking to yourself, do I go back to the last one? Do I chance it and try to fight the next one? Will I encounter an enemy I have never encountered before and get completely bodied? That to me, I wouldn't call it stress. It just forces you to think really rationally. But I totally understand how it can be hard for beginners to get the hang of this, and I think it's one of the biggest issues with Elden Ring, because there are so many freaking useless sites of grace everywhere all over, and it's ridiculous. And it's made me incredibly lazy, because when I started playing Steel Rising, I was like, oh man, I have to walk back to the last statue to level up. Ugh. It's such a chore, but it's really not. But we're humans and we get lazy easily and complacent. Now the next option they give you is endurance regeneration speed. So your stamina will regenerate quicker. So this can clearly help beginners in fights, because stamina management, I would say, is something that we as Souls game players or veterans are used to. But it's a pretty intermediate to advanced mechanic to get used to, because any other open world game like this, or just any adventure game or other RPGs, the stamina isn't that much of a problem. It can be really difficult for new people to get into these games, and especially in Steel Rising, because there's this mechanic where cooling your stamina or your robot parts or whatever can result in your character freezing over. Your character's frozen over, you're getting hit, you're taking a lot of damage. It can be so frustrating. Now the last option they give you is easy cooling, and I feel like it's a lot like the previous option with the stamina. It just means your stamina will also regenerate quicker during combat when you're not blocking hits or dodging attacks. But I also think like this specifically will benefit players who want to try heavy weapons and aren't used to managing stamina in a way that can literally result to your death. But overall, after looking over this system, I really think it's been implemented in such a good way, because it doesn't rely on bulking up enemies' health bars and damage. It's really to help the player along in an environment they may not be familiar with. And I do think that someone who's never played a Souls game before and complete this game on assist mode could come back and play it without the easy mode toggled on, no problem, because they'll now understand the mechanics, the enemy's attack patterns, their weaknesses, They'll understand where to go, where all the checkpoints are, which is a really big part of these games. Any game in this genre is really about learning, dying, learning, dying, and it's just a constant cycle, you know, and we veterans are fine with it. We'll pick up a game like this and probably learn it in less than an hour. And in some way, Elden Ring did have an easy mode, you know, where you can grind levels before facing story bosses and actually progressing in the story. But this game is a lot more beginner friendly, and I think it's actually the perfect title for people to get started on Souls games. And usually, I actually would be against easy modes, but I think this could actually benefit players, you know, not only because they have the incentive to replay it as intended to actually get the trophies, because you can't unlock the trophies if you're on assist mode. It doesn't artificially inflate the difficulty, and it still forces players to learn the game's mechanics and how to play to survive and win, instead of stretching out gameplay, making fights longer, and just overall wasting your time. So let me know what you guys think about this, if you agree with me, if you don't. And if you're looking for a friendly Discord server to join, the link to mine is in the description of every video, and everyone is welcome to join. So have yourself a wonderful day, everyone, and I'll see you all very soon, hopefully a little less sick.